Critical Thinker's next comment was, do you think the quality of the Disney Plus shows will ever improve, or do you think we're just stuck with the constant slew of inconsistent and mediocre content we've been getting recently? Like if Star Wars was getting HBO quality shows consistently, it would be great and could do wonders to improve word of mouth and win back the interest of non-Star Wars fans, but Disney doesn't seem interested or is just incapable of maintaining the quality of their shows. For every skeleton crew or andor we get, there's a bunch of mediocre content that results in more apathy both from the fan base and from the general public. If you were in charge of Disney Plus shows, what would you do to improve quality and word of mouth overall? This has been a really messy time for Star Wars. The writing has been subpar, underwhelming, and not what it should be. But Star Wars and HBO are very different to me, and one of the reasons I made that one video about is it time for a Legends offshoot universe is Star Wars is not necessarily a feeling or a universe to a lot of people. It's a group of characters. It is the Skywalkers. It's Anakin and Luke and Obi-Wan and Han and Leia. That's what Star Wars is to people. It's not like Marvel where there's hundreds of superheroes and basically if you have a cape, you are now a part of this universe. That's not what Star Wars is. And so Star Wars treating it like Marvel, which is what they've tried to do in some ways, to a lot of people it's Star Wars is much more confined. It's something that's specific to the George Lucas movies. It's hard to capture that spirit in any other way outside of those characters. And whereas HBO might be adapting a book series like in Game of Thrones, or it might have a big, expansive multi-season story like The Wire or The Sopranos, we also forget, and I think Sanak made a good point, with Disney Plus being something that started in 2019, HBO has had 30 years to figure out what their style is and how they do their shows, right? So it's very difficult to compare Disney Plus to HBO. Because the money's there, I think we're all really disappointed in the products that we've seen. Even the best Star Wars products haven't necessarily looked like they should or felt like they should. We need Star Wars to develop what their look and style and feel is on streaming. And that's something they have to do on top of just planning out the stories and planning out the universe, is figure out what does Star Wars streaming look like and feel like. We've had too much inconsistency in terms of Obi-Wan looking terrible at times, but then also looking good at times. We've had Ahsoka look great for most of it, but then there are moments
Yeah.
that don't look as good. Some of their worst stuff, like Mandalorian season 3, looked great, but the Acolyte did not look good. Skeleton Crew looked great, but nobody watched it. So like there's a there's just so much inconsistency in visuals, so much inconsistency in style, and that's where as a studio Disney and as a studio Lucasfilm either need to clamp down and say we're making everything look the same and we're making it all this similar type of quality. It will help their visual effects artists because they'll have a specific way they work on things, and rather than or making variations of every different thing. That's what Game of Thrones can do. It's one universe, it's all set and it looks similar, so every season looks the same. Star Wars got all these different worlds, all these different cultures and people and species. There's a lot of different things to put money towards, and so
Yeah.
there's a lot of differences, I think. So it's not just a one-to-one comparison. It's not me defending Star Wars. I've been very critical over that Star Wars and the way Lucasfilm has handled all this stuff over the last year. It's a top to bottom thing. You have to start from the top and say, this is how we're going to do it, and this is what we're going to emphasize. And if you don't do that, if it's just like, hey, John Favreau, you want to make the show, go do it. Like that's kind of the approach they've taken. And when you do that, you have each filmmaker attaching a different style, a different look, and a different vibe and wanting different things in their show. Star Wars is so big, you can have so many different things. That's what's caused a lot of this, I think, as well. Whereas if you're a studio and you say, hey, this is our way of making it, what can you do under the constraints that we have now laid out for you? Star Wars is just on too many different things, too many different ways. And as for a way to kind of fix that, I think a KOTOR, that's been the big rumor. KOTOR recently. I think KOTOR would be the perfect type of thing to do, because that could be something that if you did it for 7 seasons, you could develop a specific style, a specific look, a specific set of characters. You can make all of that work and exist. You can plan it out. You can plan out your first 3 seasons. You can plan out your end game, and you can focus on it and creating that world and making sure it comes out the way you want it to. Those are the types of things that they really need to focus on in the future.
I look at it the same way with Disney Plus, right? Like this was 1.0 and a 1.0 that misguided in a lot of ways, I think, because in 2019, every freaking studio is like, we can do streaming. HBO has been a name brand for 20 something years before streaming even became something that they considered, right? And look what they did with Game of Thrones, right? They had every chance to be like, nope, we're going to strip away Benioff and Weiss. We're offering 10 seasons, 10 episodes each. We can put in new showrunners and all that, and they still deferred. So it's not like they can't make big mistakes after having an incredible adaptation of a book series that was incomplete, right? So I think Star Wars, the benefit of that is that we're always getting something new. HBO shows have started normalizing again. They've definitely had a rough patch too. I don't know why people act like they didn't. They definitely did too. And COVID, again, that ruined so many things for so many people. Yes, they need to put way more investment in writing, and I don't think it's necessarily the writing itself, it's the planning going into the writing.
Mhm.
What are we writers? Why are we writing? How is this gonna affect the storytelling in 2, 3 years of other stories and all that? That hasn't really been a consideration. If you look at that 2020 investor slate, Kennedy and a lot of other people have basically hinted or outright said, like, "We're kind of forced to announce stuff that wasn't ever worked on." Disney's biggest issue is that they've always treated Star Wars as like, "Hey, you can have a big movie every single year, you can pump it out like the MCU," and it's never been like that. There's always a mythicism to it. There's a little bit of an aftermath to whatever Star Wars stuff comes out, and we've kinda lost that. So I think we're no matter what, we're gonna get a little bit bigger pauses. Time definitely does help Star Wars in so many ways. We've seen it with the prequels, we've seen it with the Clone Wars and everything. So I'm confident about that. I think if we improve the runtime too, it's instead of having so many shows have episodes that are 30 minutes or less, you can at least understand what a show is doing when it's got closer to 40 minutes per episode on average. Have scenes where your characters are literally just talking and having dramatic exchanges. There's a lot of lessons learned. We got Kinberg working on at least landscaping all the race stories moving forward. We're done with just spamming out stuff with Star Wars. Whatever comes out, even if it does feel like, oh, there's still so much going on, I feel like we're gonna feel like it's connected and it's been a bit more well thought out. And there's a couple extra minutes here, and oh, that scene feels a little bit more polished than it would have 4 or 5 years ago. And the fact that they've already finished filming The Mandalorian Grogu, and they're gonna give it a year and a half basically of post-production, of whatever reshoots are needed. They're keeping everything close to the chest, close to the vest. I think that only gets me more hyped because let's be
Mhm.
honest, like, we knew too much about so many of these shows. Now we're like, "What are we getting from Mandalorian Grogu? Why is it being reworked this way?" That mystery that's building up for me now. And I think we've been missing that for this kind of period where we're just like, "Okay, we're gonna get another show. Oh, we're gonna get another show. Oh, we're gonna get another show." We kinda know that's gonna be this kinda now we're just like, who knows? And that's exciting. It's the how I feel about the comics right now, and it's definitely how I feel about live action.
The unknown is sometimes the best thing when it comes to expectations and all of that as well. Star Wars seems to be actually planning out a future. And I'm not just talking about with announcing things and saying we're going to make this. It seems like they've taken these last few years and developed an actual plan with the promotion of Dave Filoni to CCO, with Jon Favreau now moving back to movies with Mandalorian and Grogu, doubling down of this era, of the New Republic era. And hopefully, with that planning comes a more consistent level of quality. When you say HBO quality, it's not been for a lack of money. They've put a lot of money into these shows. The Acolyte, $180 million. Skeleton Crew, I don't know if we know the exact number for that, but it seems to be similar. They're just spending it in the wrong places and they're not making the most of it. All of the things that we've seen up to and through Andor season 2, all of those were announced not only under Bob Chapek, who was CEO at the time, but were announced 5 years ago. So we have completed that initial run of Star Wars projects. I'm hoping we get more Star Wars in the second half of 2025. As somebody who wants the Star Wars content to be good, I would be actually more confident that it's going to be great if we don't get anything after Andor season 2 for over a year and a half, basically, and then get Mandalorian and Grogu, because that would mean we're transitioning into the next era of creatives and storytelling. And so for me, that's why I have a little bit of confidence going into 2026. Now we're moving into making quality a focus instead of quantity. Hello there, Star Wars lads fans. Thank you so much for watching this video. This was actually a clip from one of our live streams and Q&As. So if you'd like to join us every single Tuesday around 7:30 p.m. Pacific time, make sure you join us. It'll allow you to ask a question that might be turned into a video. Hopefully you join us. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below all of your thoughts on this clip. Thanks for watching, and we will see you all next time.